Good morning, afternoon, evening, depending where you are in the world. Today is October 6th, and you are watching the View Screen. I am your host, just one of your hosts, Amy Nelson.
And I'm just one of the other hosts, Kelvin Wood. The Viewscreen is your weekly Star Trek magazine show, streaming live on YouTube. We've got lots of news, features, and lots of love for our Star Trek family all around the globe.
Well, if you're not able to watch us live, please go to YouTube and watch a replay. We've got this as a podcast. If you are interested, just follow and subscribe to anywhere you get your podcast. You'll find us by searching the View Screen.
Indeed. If you're a returning viewer, welcome back. We really appreciate all of your support, so thank you very much. But if you are new here, massive welcome. Thank you for finding us. Please remember to hit up the like, subscribe, and alert button on YouTube to make sure you never miss an episode. It really helps our show to grow. We do have 109 subscribers on our YouTube channel at the moment, so we're trying to grow that. We've got quite an ambitious target. We want to get to 200, so please help us any way you can. Make sure you spread the word, like, and subscribe.
Yes. And we would like to invite you, the listeners, to join the discussion either on our new Discord server or on our Facebook group, the BQN Collective. We've got lots of discussion going on over there. So please join us. And we love interacting with the live audience. So, well, hello there, JJ.
Oh, hey, JJ.
Thank you. So, pop a note in the chat and we'll talk to you in the chat. Yeah.
How are you, Amy? How's your week been?
Oh my goodness. Well, I cannot believe we are now in October. September just flew by. It is still very warm here. And I do get to have one of my last pool days for the season. I mean, we are still, our high temperature is 97 degrees, which is 36 degrees Celsius. It's quite warm.
Thank you for translating. I appreciate that.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Well, what's going on with you there, Kelvin?
Oh, I've had a rather interesting week. I feel a little bit of a fraud. I've been so looking forward to this episode. It's our wellness special where we get to talk about physical health, mental health, well-being. As you know, I've been on a bit of a diet. I'm an avid gym goer. Earlier this week, I just noticed something in my eye that my partner James said to me when I'm blinking. Only one of my eyes is closing. And it caused all my eye to dry out and it was very uncomfortable. And I made an appointment with the doctors because I then noticed the next day I was speaking a little bit funny. And when I was taking a bite of food using a fork or a spoon, it was like dragging it out of my mouth rather than chewing. Basically, something has gone wrong on the right-hand side of my face. Made an appointment to go and see the doctor. And the doctor said, no, we're not waiting for your appointment. I need you to go to the emergency room.
Oh my
It
goodness.
sounds like you might be having a stroke, which is obviously very scary. So on Tuesday, I took myself to accident and emergency. And I've been diagnosed with Bell's palsy, which is a brain injury to one of the nerves in your brain affecting one side of your face. So I'm coming to you live today with facial paralysis on the right-hand side. It's if I look a little strange, if I'm sounding a little strange, apologies. It's been an interesting week, but I'm on some rather interesting steroid tablets to strengthen the muscles back in my face. And hopefully in the next week or very most 2, I should be back to normal. But I feel absolutely fine. I'm in no kind of other health effects, just a bit of a wonky face, even more wonky than usual.
Oh, you are still so handsome, and we're glad that you are here. Earlier behind the scenes, I got this image with an eye patch on. I was like, oh my goodness, we're gonna, yes.
Yeah. It's not pirate theme.
Yeah. Oh, well, Christos
Oh,
wishes you to
thank
get
you,
well.
Christos.
Oh, thank you. Well, speaking of Christos, he was the first one to remind me that he got the copy of his Nana Visitor's book. And so I immediately went and got my own copy. And this book is amazing. It's gorgeous. The content is amazing. And Christos posted it on his socials, but it is broken up into the different shows and
Mhm.
women characters in it, all the way up through Strange New Worlds. So, very current book, and I'm very excited to get into this.
Brilliant. I had mine on pre-order. I think we have to wait another 2 weeks over here in the
Oh,
UK
right.
for it, which I'm sure by the time it arrives, Christos would have put a picture of every single page all over social media. So I'm warning you, mister. But I cannot wait to see it. He's absolutely right. And so are you, Amy. The images that I've seen are beautiful, and I can't wait to explore the words that go with it about our wonderful women of Star Trek.
I just love that I'm sort of the same age as these women, and so I can really relate to what they experienced in the 70s and 80s because I was there myself. So
Mm,
I'm very looking forward to it. Yes.
brilliant.
Well, well, coming up on today's show, as Kelvin said, we've got this.
We have our wellness special. We have Kristin returning with all of the news and features of the week. Hey.
And we've returning from season 1. Alex Rosalez is here to tell us the latest from his transformational journey.
And welcome to the Viewscreen, a first-time guest. It's Blake Ussery, here to talk about personal training and the Red Shirt Bible.
Yes. What a packed show we have and great themes. So let's head over to the newsroom. Well, hello there, Kristin.
Good
What's
morning.
tickled you?
Oh, that opening little scene is it's brilliant every time. Just like that was one of the best nights of the cruise for me. So getting reminded of it every week just makes my heart full. So
Wonderful, wonderful. How has the week been for you, my love?
it's been good. We for Canada, we are still hitting the 20s. So we're at about 68 to 69 degrees. Nice. So it's really warm here for this time of year. It's usually getting quite chilly. So I don't know. I'm ready to yeah, you know, there's still lots of people here in shorts too, but Canadians they wear shorts when it's like snowing. So it's what we do. Is what we do.
Don't worry. Well, at least it's still spooky season for you, regardless of the temperature.
Absolutely it is. So I'm in all my glory right now. My favorite time of the year.
Well, speaking of all your glory, what have you got for us this week?
Oh, there's some good stuff happening. So 25th birthday, Barge of the Dead. This is I'm torn on this episode personally. The first time I watched it, I didn't like it. And you know why I didn't like it is in the beginning when the blade starts bleeding, it bled red. And I was like, excuse me, Klingon blood is pink. Thank you very much. Where is my Pepto-Bismol? So I kind of like checked out within the first couple minutes of the episode, but then on rewatches, it's actually a very transformational episode for B'Elanna's journey, and especially in terms of reevaluating her relationship with her mom, which I think speaks to anybody who's got any sort of parental trauma in their past or feeling abandoned by a parent. I think it's actually a really interesting take on that. So despite how you feel about it today, 25 years ago, this episode aired. So
Wow.
yeah.
I feel old.
Yeah.
Yeah. And more birthdays. So, of course, Avery Brooks is 76. He turned 76 on October 2nd. So, Captain Cisco himself. And then Hannah Cheeseman. Cheeseman. Excellent last name. I wish I had cheese in my last name. And of course, she's best known for playing Ariam on Discovery. So she turns 40 today. So happy 40th birthday, Queen. Welcome to the decade. It's a good place to be. And then one more birthday I want to throw in that's not on here, but tomorrow is Mr. Christian Carter's birthday.
Oh.
So just a big happy birthday, love. You are so important and cherished by all of us. And I hope tomorrow you are just spoiled like you deserved.
Yes.
Brilliant.
Happy birthday.
Sending love to Nashville.
So much love to Nashville. And then on October 3rd was the 32nd anniversary of LeVar and his beautiful wife, Stephanie. So they were married in 1992 with one heck of a wedding party.
Yes.
Yes.
Look at that picture. I love it that they all were there.
Patrick Stewart is just voguing for that camera. He is living every moment. Just make it so, right? He looks great. So
Yes.
can you imagine getting married and having this group show up and just oh my gosh, that would have been amazing. But
yeah,
maybe my next life. So,
and because of this, we have his two children who been in Star Trek themselves.
Absolutely, the Legacy family. So it's absolutely wonderful. They are such a wonderful couple too. I got to talk to them on the cruise in 2018.
Oh,
and they are just. We were both lost on the ship trying to find our way off. So anyway, it was just a quick little chat in passing, but they are just beautiful. A beautiful couple who really epitomize a lovely, strong marriage. So I love to have those types of examples in my life. So that
very good.
Wonderful. And next we have a little new segment I'm going to do called Meme of the Week. And this one I felt was just anybody who watched the vice presidential debates will get this, especially if you're coming from a Star Trek lens. I thought this was just hilarious because I can kind of see Cisco saying this. So yeah, the rules were you guys weren't going to fact check. So I just thought that this was very on brand. And I was laughing at my desk at work when this came up. So I was like, I have to put this in.
Beautiful. Love it.
Okay, so news. Let's jump into actual news here. We have a new Star Trek theme park has been announced based after Discovery, which I think is super unique. So it's going to be opening in January 2025, which is just a blink of an eye away because we're already heading warp speed towards the end of 2024 in Turkey, of all places. Which I thought was really cool, which means I can go to Turkey and have all the Star Trek and cats that my heart can handle. So
oh my gosh, we will be in heaven, Kristin. Let's go together.
Just be like, one day I'm gonna hang out in my ready room style hotel room and then go pet some street cats. There's something else one can want.
I had no idea Turkey was into Star Trek. I mean, I know it's worldwide, but like a large enough audience to create a theme park, it just blows my mind.
I absolutely agree with you. When I saw Star Trek theme park, I'm thinking, okay, somewhere in the States.
Yeah.
I was like, where is this gonna maybe like glom onto some other existing thing? But no, this is I think again this is showing that the world of Trek is a global phenomenon. Right. It is still going strong, as is evident by the fact that they're going after one of the newest iterations of the series. They're not doing the classic Next Gen or DS9 or whatever, that era, they're going for Prodigy, which I think is a really, really unique. So one of the rides as well is being touted as being a 5D experience.
Oh,
Wow.
Which is interesting. So when I did the Hilton Star Trek experience way back in the day, I did the Borg 4D, which was really cool. So people are speculating online what the 5D is going to integrate to really bring in sort of all the senses. And I'm wondering if they start to pump some sort of like a smell into the room to kind of take you to a different place. And maybe you've got like some goggles on for some 3D. And then, of course, your chair maybe pokes you or whatever, like it did with the Borg. So anyway, I am so excited. Now I'm thinking to myself, okay, if I'm over that side of the pond in July, I could pop over to Turkey after. Maybe.
yeah.
It all seems a little too good to be true at the moment. It seems like it's not a joke, but it's just come from nowhere. What is it? It reminds me, Amy, do you remember after the experience closed in Vegas and there was talk of another start? Was it at the Neo something center? And it just it never happened. And there was this massive hype. It's reminding me of that. Now, I don't want to, pour bad news on it, but this is one of those things that I'm just very keen to see what happens over the next few months.
Yeah.
Because January is not far away for the theme park to be popping up in the hotel.
Apparently, it's an addition to an existing theme park.
Right.
So kind of like with the other theme parks, there's like the Harry Potter world. From my understanding of reading the article, this is going to be the Star Trek wing of this theme park. So maybe they have existing infrastructure that they're working with that they're just remodeling. So it might make it a bit more tangible and more realistic to get done in time.
So like Disney have the Star Wars element of the Disney theme parks.
Yes.
Yes.
Lovely. Got it.
Yeah.
And so the picture on the left is a mock-up of what the hotel rooms will look like.
Nice.
So that's the ready room kind of vibe to it, is what they were saying. And then on the right, of course, is the mock-up of what the ride is going to look like. So even if it's a little late, let's say that it doesn't open right January 2025, there's some delays or whatever. Even if it comes in the summer of 2025, that is still going to be a huge tourist attraction. It's still something new to bring into our little world, which I am so stoked. And again, love that I'm seeing it somewhere other than the US. No offense to the States, but it's nice to see things in other parts of the world as well.
Absolutely. Yep.
And Turkey is very warm, so it'll be a lovely little holiday for anyone who decides to go.
Perfect. I love hearing that. And for you, it won't be very far to get to at all, will it? Just a quick little plane ride for you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in comparison to the rest of you, to me, quite a distance. But you guys cover a lot more distance than we Brits do on our little hop over to Spain and France, and thinking that's a million miles away when it's really not.
Yeah, that is true.
Oh. All right, and then next on the docket, we have Star Trek virtual challenges. And this is a movement challenge and a health challenge. So it kind of ties into our theme today.
Oh, how apropos.
How exactly. I love it when life just falls together like this. So what you can do is you can go to the conquer.event/Star Trek online and you sign up for these different levels of activity. And they have different missions for you to take part in, and really it's your steps, your biking, all of that adds to your experience within this this journey. And then as you complete them, you get all of these little badges and commemorative keepsakes sent to you. It is available worldwide. My only thing is it is kind of expensive. It's $50 per event. And I mean, for me, that's expensive, but I'm very cheap. I can't think of a better word. You can do the group. I think the whole thing is they discount it to $220, which really isn't much of a discount. And I think you can do 3 for $100 and some odd dollars. So I might do one. Again, for anyone outside of the States, don't forget all those prices are in USD. So please tread carefully when it comes to exchange rates. But I think this is a really cool idea to get people moving again. You know, sitting is the new smoking. And anything that can get somebody interested in movement and walking and being active, I think is really cool. And you get a little reward at the end. Who doesn't love that little shot of dopamine when you get your reward? So again, really interesting. A lot of thought has gone into each of the different themes, the different journeys and missions that you'll go on. And these badges are actually really aesthetically pleasing. So again, I appreciate that the stuff that is still being, you know, created for new Trek is right now it's being done really well. I actually very much enjoy it. But yeah, Conquer.events /Star Trek, or just Google Star Trek virtual challenges. It'll pop right up and you can go read all about it. And yeah, I'm probably going to do one. Yes, I will probably do the Klingon code.
Yeah, the price is quite prohibitive for people, but I love the gamification of exercise. And, you know, just a polite reminder, no disrespect to the product, but if you want to get involved in things like this, in things like our BQN Collective group, there's often people who run little online group challenges for counting steps. And, you know, if you want an accountability partner to make sure you keep moving, or that kind of trying to beat somebody, you can do all of that with your contacts, with your friends. You don't need to spend all the money on the merch. Now, there will be people watching this who are doing it solely for the merchandise at the end, which is fine too, whatever motivates you. But yeah, just use your Trek fandom in however way you can to keep on moving, which is sure on something Blake will want to talk about a little bit later.
I love that.
I've had some other franchises do this, the Disney, like the national parks here in America. And I've had actually a podcaster friend, him and his wife have done the national park ones, and it's like on the treadmill and it tracks you and you have this amount of time to finish, and they get a little national park, little medal thing. And it's really inspired them and motivated them. And they've already done 2 challenges when before they weren't doing much activity. So I'm just grateful, to have this, use it. If it does help, great. That's exactly what it's meant for. So I'm excited.
Yeah.
So, I totally agree. And Kelvin, I love the fact that you bring in the mention that there are similar things to do for this that do not include any sort of financial strain for some people. You know, life is tough. Yes, BQN Fitness Challenge. You know, the cost of living is no joke right now. So sometimes when I look at these little things, I'm thinking, in this economy, really? But, you know, if for some people, this might be something they jump right into, and just maybe it's what they need. And that $250 is the investment into their health that they need to get motivated and get going. But yes, don't let the money be a hindrance to you. There are free ways of moving with the BQN challenge. So, yes.
Well, we have Ron who says no Deep Space Nine challenge. And Ron does a great cosplay of Cisco. Just a shout out to Ron.
I would love to. Someone just went to the gym in full uniform and just on their treadmill, just pumping away to the Enterprise challenge or something like that.
Challenge accepted.
Yeah. There you go.
I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it for you, Kristin.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Oh, I'm excited. Okay, up next is okay, this is this is one of those stories that you're going, is this really happening? So when
you can't make this up.
You can't make this up. So I was at home baking or something, and Justin comes home from work and he just comes in and shuts the TV off and is like, I need to show you something, because he's very much up on the presidential election. So the new, again, I don't necessarily like bringing politics in, but this is just so random. So Late Night with Seth Meyers, go to YouTube and watch this later today, because he is so funny with his references and his callbacks. But apparently on the January 6th documents that Jack Smith just released, Star Trek is mentioned. So prosecutors allege that the accused advanced claims of fraud despite knowing they were false, describing how he told others that allegations of election regularly made by attorney Sidney Powell were crazy, and referenced science fiction series Star Trek. What did he say? What was this? We need more information. What was this reference? Come on, Jack, let's prioritize the right part. That's all it says.
Yeah.
So it's not out there. We don't actually know what the reference was.
We don't. So I'm assuming that he's talking that he wants to be a great leader like Darth Vader from Star Trek. That's where I'm going, where it was completely wrong and he has actually no idea what he's talking about.
Kristin,
Wow.
that was beautiful. And you said that without laughing. I'm very impressed.
I've been laughing about this for days. So it's so mentioned, so random. So Seth was just saying, here's my biggest question. What was the Star Trek reference? Was it original series or next gen? Hell, if it was DS9, I might vote for him. And then he goes on, he's like, oh, is it the famous episode where Picard tried to communicate with the aliens who only speak in allegories? That lady is harder to follow than Darmok and Jalad at Tanagra. It looks like her face got in the way when the walls fell. Oh, bird.
Wow.
And then he
Okay,
goes on to say,
viewers, listeners, do your thing. Go and find out what this actually was, and let us know in the chat if you could.
Let's release our amazing army of researchers and find out. But I also really loved how Seth came in and said, for all of you, yes, Patrick Stewart will always be Professor X. He's like, but for me, he will always be Jean-Luc Picard. And then he keeps referencing back to this throughout the rest of the segment. And it was just the way it was done was so funny. But I'm dying to know what was said. There, a lot of comments have been made like recently about looking at the word Dominion was used a lot. And so I'm thinking, okay, well, was it a tie to the Dominion Wars? But I'm thinking that's too smart for who to be making that relationship. He doesn't get it. I bet it was something really stupid. Maybe it was something about the Borg, and he's talking about how his voters are his Borg army.
Well, I think the big takeaway from this is that Seth Meyers is a huge Star Trek fan, because what he was listing just right off the top of his head, like Deep Space Nine, Next Gen, I'm like, okay, you're for real. That's pretty awesome.
I can vibe with you. And then when he said that if it was DS9, he might vote for him, does that mean that Seth Meyers' favorite series is DS9?
Sounds like it.
I think so. I think it might be. But this was just one of those, and Justin's sitting there watching me while I'm watching it. He's like, here it is, here it is, here it is. And it did not disappoint. So thank you, babe. It was a great lead for this story. But it's just so funny.
Yeah.
Trek permeates into every facet of people's lives. They just don't know it. Yeah. Okay, next we've got of course, my iteration of spooky track this week in my movie rewatch is my favorite horror movie of all times, Hellraiser, released in 1987. I have been in love with this movie even before I made the connection that the dad, Larry, was Andrew J. Robinson, Garrick. And so when I finally made that connection, I freaked out. And I was like, of course, that's why I love this movie. Of course, that's why I love his character. And I rooted for him. So this is the directorial debut, of course, of Clive Barker. And it's such an interesting... It's like people who are chasing their hedonistic desires, and the Cenobites come in with their sadomasochism. It's a very dark movie, but Andrew is phenomenal in it. He really invokes empathy from the watcher for his character, which is hard to do in a horror movie sometimes. So, yes, if you are up for the challenge, go ahead and watch Hellraiser this week, leading up to, of course, Halloween, and let me know what you thought of it. I've had mixed reviews from people who I've told to go watch this movie. Some say it's amazing, and others go, I have no idea what I just watched. So it's a very polarizing movie. So, and that's it for the news today.
All right.
Brilliant.
Well, let's bring in our other guests and see what they have to say. So, Alex, anything there catch your eye?
There's so much there. Oh my gosh, I'm like a huge theme park geek. So like, I've got a annual pass at Disney and all that kind of thing. And I've always wanted a Star Trek theme park, and I missed the experience. I didn't get to go, but I do have a piece of it in my living room. I've got somebody donated to me. It's a big, huge poster about the Borg and like the whole like museum thing about the Borg. So that's really awesome. Thanks for sharing that, Chris. I'm really excited to hear about that. It's a good reason to go to Turkey.
Yes.
I wanted to mention though about the awards.
Yes.
You know, it is expensive. Like it's kind of ridiculous. I saw an ad for these, and they're really nice pieces. They're metal, well painted, and they move and they're like intricate, a lot of detail. But I think the value in the $50, and by the way, I'm not like any way affiliated with these folks. But I just was thinking about this. One thing I've learned is that in order to be successful, accountability is a big piece of it.
Yes.
And if you don't have skin in the game, it's hard for you to be held accountable, right? So if you hire somebody like Blake, for example, you pay him money, that money is giving you skin in the game to complete your goal, right? So that $50, you could think of it as an investment in your health and a reason to do the work so that you are, you know, getting benefit from the $50 that you put in. It's a good way to hold yourself.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. It's why they say too, sometimes when you have your home gym, it's not always utilized the same way when you pay for a gym membership every month. I guess that's my thing is some people for $50 will be the difference between eating that week or not. So that's where it's just, you know, the divide is definitely comes out when you look at these types of things. But I like to hear that what you get is actually good quality, because sometimes you get it and it's this little piece of plastic garbage and you're like, well, this is a little disappointing.
It looks like it. I don't know. I would talk to somebody who actually received the final product. You know, maybe they used AI to make it look great. I don't know.
What do you think, Blake? Anything in the news there that catches your interest?
When you said skin in the game, that is exactly it. Accountability. That's usually one of the first things that somebody says to me when I like to do at my gym that I run. I do what's called a fitness consultation. It's almost an interview because I want to get to know you as a person, because I want to match you with a trainer that's actually going to help you. I'm not going to go LA Fitness style and just give you the starving rando on the list who just needs a job. I'm not going to do that because nothing's going to get accomplished. And usually the first thing that somebody tells me is they need accountability. And so that helps me determine how many times a week they need to come in. And I refuse to sell 3 or 4 or 5 days a week of training. I think that is a waste of your time and money, because I would like to see you once or twice, because I want you to come in on your own. Your whole race on death to come into the gym should not be to see me. This should be to improve yourself. I'm gonna show you the way. And you are going to be accountable by showing up and by putting money in it. And a personal example for me is I am notoriously bad about doing stretches, which I recommend everybody do. I do them with a passion. And leg day, particularly glutes and hamstrings, the back side of your legs. Mine are very weak, and I hate them with a passion because, you know, the standard is you only work out the top half of your body and you look like a T-bone steak with 2 toothpicks stuck in it. But I actually pay one of our trainers on staff. I pay her to do leg day with me because it forces me to do it. As like, I'm paying you retail. I'm paying you. I'm not cutting myself a deal. Yeah. I'm paying you exactly what anybody off the street would pay us.
Yeah.
And you're going to sit there and you're going to literally whip my ass. That's just how it works. And I think this concept, the doing the challenge works because in the beginning here, I did something on Twitter called the Fit Federation. And it was a bunch of us that got together during the pandemic to kind of give each other accountability and fitness tips and help.
Yeah.
That's where all of this got started, is doing something similar to what they're doing. I didn't monetize it. They figured out how to monetize it. But
yeah.
Wow.
That's
interesting.
Cool. Yes.
Well, thank you, everyone. That was really interesting. Kristin, thank you as always for your research and presentation skills.
Yes.
And we'll
Thank
see
you
you
so
all
much.
a little later.
Sounds good.
All right.
I'm hanging in there.
Okay, good. Okay. Well, we have got Alex Rosalez coming back, returning from season 1 of the Viewscreen. And Alex, thank you for coming back. And I just want to hear how things have been going for you, the content that you have been putting out there on social media. Like, catch us up and tell us what's going on.
Yeah. First off, like, I'm returning. Does that mean that I have a chance to become the Jeffrey Coombs of the Viewscreen? I mean, I even have a new name, by the way. I forgot to put it in here, but I also have a new name. So, maybe I'm working towards that.
Yes. All right.
And Kelvin, I'm sorry about the Bell's palsy. I know it's rough. My grandmother actually had it before. And I know it's, treatable, and I know you'll get through it, but I know it's a challenge. And
oh, thanks, mate. Apparently it's not as rare as you think. I've had so many people come to me online saying, oh yeah, I've had that, or my parents or my partner. So yeah. I'm in good company. I'm hopeful for a quick recovery, but thank you, Alex.
Yeah, absolutely. And you still look as handsome as ever. So I didn't even notice till you said something. And I was like, oh yeah.
I'm getting my excuses in quickly before people say, what's wrong with his face?
I love it. Yeah. So yeah, thank you, Amy, so much for having me on. And, when I was on the show the last time, it's kind of ironic, I was basically talking about my podcast coming up, where I'm talking about transformational journeys. And little did I know that I was about to undergo my own transformational journey again, and that's kind of all started with my own transformational journey about 7 years ago. But shortly after that show, I did get 4 interviews done for the podcast, but it hasn't launched yet. And so before I get to the details, I do want to share that, Amy and I have talked, and I will be launching the show next month as part of the BQN family. So I'm super excited about that. Thank you, Amy, and everybody for inviting me into this and giving me the accountability, as well as a big piece I need. But yeah, so, I was going through a really rough breakup, and I had to prioritize giving myself the space and energy to process that. And I prioritized actions that would help me process that, because one thing I've learned in my mental health journey is that what we repress, what we suppress, gets expressed. It doesn't go away. It sticks with us, right? So what I did do is I started making a series of reels to help me process what I was going through. So it's interesting, if you watch my reels, you can kind of indirectly see what that journey was like for me by the things I was sharing, that I was learning about and discovering and processing. And one of those things that kind of emerged for me was my reliance on external validation, which kind of then led me towards codependency and being, in relationships that typically aren't necessarily the healthiest for me, right? So the good news is that coming out of that, I was able to heal a lot of that wounding that I had around codependency. But the other piece too is that I discovered a few things about myself. One is that I love to make these reels. I love to share my learnings this way. And I also came up with a new moniker for myself. My trainer at my gym started to call me Lex. That was the nickname he gave me, was Lex. And I was like, I really like this. I like this name, Lex. It's short for Alex, right? And then I was like, well, but Lex Rosalez, it doesn't. So what if I shorten Rosalez to Rosa, Lex Rosa? So that's my new screen name. And I actually got it blessed by Nana Visitor. I had lunch with her back in, I think, April or May. And, you know, she was helping me process some things as well. And she was actually excited about her book coming out, by the way. I want to put a plug in there again for that. You know, thanks, Christos, for mentioning that. You know, she put so much work into that. She's so excited. And I'm going to let her know that you all are talking about it. She's going to be so happy to hear this. You know, it's an awesome work that she's done for all the women of Trek and the women not in Trek. So yeah, so I did the series of reels, and I also did the 4 interviews. I have an interview with a person that has traveled all of Asia for, like, not all, but a lot of Asia for about 10 years, like backpacking through Asia for 10 years, trying to find himself and discover his place in the world, and now is mentoring young men. I have a woman who is a Trekkie who is just finished flight school, is a pilot and a pilot instructor, and she's helping the next generation of men and women to become pilots. I have a former tech exec who wrote a book called Waiting to Breathe, who is book about that very much is in line with my podcast. So my podcast is about transformational journeys towards authenticity, and his book is about finding the authenticity through life's challenges. And then I also have a woman who's also a former tech executive, but who co-founded a consulting business called Finding Human, which shows people how connecting with their authentic selves and with the people that they work with can improve their ability to lead and work together as a team. And so, you know, these are different people that have sort of inspired me on this journey, that helped me realize that the core of all health, because mental health underlies all health, right? Because it drives us, it leads the decisions we make, it drives our bodies, it drives our interactions with the world, is usually the root cause of mental health concerns, is a disconnect from oneself. And so, you know, all of these people have inspired me because they've been working so hard to connect with themselves and try to better understand themselves, so that they can then have a better relationship with their bodies, with the world around them. And so yeah, that's basically what I've been doing. For those who haven't heard about the podcast, that's what it's going to be about. And my reels, I've shared some of those journeys along the way.
Well, one thing that I just really think that you are so talented, Alex, is that you are able to, you know, start with a problem or a situation, but when you talk about it, you go higher up where it's relatable. You get to sort of the big picture of, well, this scenario fits into like codependency. Like, you're not talking about the issue, you're talking about the capital issue, right? And so then it's so relatable. So even though I'm not going through your specific situation, I can still relate, because you've taken us to a completely place where we can interact, we have that common vocabulary. And I just feel you're so talented with that.
Oh, thank you. It's a survival mechanism, to be honest. You know, like I get so overwhelmed so quickly with so much information around me. And so I try to distill it to, you know, something more tractable and tangible. And so I like to distill these things into, and also you get bigger results that way, right? If I can figure out how all these things connect and then find the underlying issue, if I can fix that underlying issue, then I'm not just putting Band-Aids on things, right? And so that's why, like, I kept distilling down. It's like, oh, okay, well, before I can even figure out how to become a better person, I need to figure out who I am today, right? And a lot of us, I'm still doing this, and I think especially a lot of us in the Star Trek community too, because I think a lot of us are neurodivergent, and it's even more of a challenge when you're neurodivergent to connect with oneself. This has actually been shown clinically that we oftentimes have this disconnect with ourselves. And again, I think that's why it's a survival mechanism, right? Because I've felt that disconnect and am struggling to figure out, like, okay, well, what is this? And so, yeah, so Amy, was there a specific thing that we've discussed that like really stood out to you that kind of,
well, it's going to what your podcast is about, but be finding what or who you are authentically, like that authentic person. And it's almost like, as you're saying, you're boiling things down, like that to me is so far the deepest I've gone, because it's like everything leads to becoming authentic. And so one thing that I love about math is that math is all about finding patterns. And so each situation is a pattern where we can, okay, this is the pattern. This is what I did in this. Let me try it here. Oh, it works. So these strategies that I'm using for one does translate, and it helps me be even more authentic because, yeah, that's who I am. This is how I react to scenarios. So I love that piece about being authentic, and I try and like take that to my students where they're just so everywhere.
I love that you used math, brought up math, because I think math's a great analogy here, right? Because oftentimes when we're faced with a problem, and we all do this, right? We're running through it over and over and over again, and we're like, I can't find the solution. I'm running through it over and over again. Well, there's usually a hidden variable in there, right? And we're missing that hidden variable. And so sometimes, just like with the math problem, you need a second set of eyes to look at this, right? And the other thing with the math problem is if the variables don't have accurate information in them, the equation will never balance out, right? And oftentimes we don't have the right information because we're filtering stuff through with a biased perspective. And sadly, we're oftentimes trying to validate what we already believe about ourselves. So if we believe that we aren't an authentic person, for example, right? If we believe that we're fake, if we believe that we're, not lovable, if we believe these things, we will look for evidence to confirm that, because as humans, we like to be right. And so irony is that we end up stuck in these bad patterns. I shouldn't say bad patterns. I don't want to place a label on it, but these patterns that may not be getting us to where we want to go because we're trying to find information to validate that, right? And so what I've sometimes done to help me there, obviously having a therapist helps, having friends who feel safe to be honest with you, that you've learned how to help them feel safe to be honest with you, which can require some emotional regulation, right? Getting feedback can be challenging. And then also a tool that I've found recently that's helped me out is, Chat GPT. I can share with it like, okay, here's the situation. What am I missing here? What might I need to be looking at that I'm not looking at, right? So I love that you brought math into it. And I'll give you one other reason why I love that you brought math into this, is that how I got onto this journey, and I think this might resonate also with some people here, is that I hit this point in my life where I realized I was thinking of myself as a thinking machine that happens to feel. But the reality is I'm a feeling machine that happens to think, right? So if you look at data is a thinking machine that is trying so hard to feel, and it's just not working, right? Everyone else around him are feeling machines that happen to think. And again, distilling it all down, if you think about it, even when we are in our purest logical minds, when we're using pure logic, there is still an emotion underneath all of that tells us, wait, this logic is correct. It feels right. Why does it feel right? It's familiar. It's familiar to something else I know, right? Yes. There's always an emotion underneath it. If it's not underneath the logic, it's underneath the why behind why you're applying the logic. I'm applying this logic because I want to save my friend's life. Why do I want to save his life? I care about him or her or them, right? I want to protect my own life. Why do I care about my own life? I care, love, right? So at the end of the day, we make tens of thousands of decisions every day. This is also shown in studies. And most of those are subconscious. And so those are being driven by that emotional system. So we have to be able to program that emotional system in a way that is benefiting us in a positive direction and the people around us. So I think if we don't embrace that notion that we are feeling machines, that's authentic who we are. If we don't embrace that, we're missing out on a huge opportunity to become better human beings.
Yeah. And my gosh, you're saying so much, and I have so much to say. I've got to organize my thoughts. First of all, yes, to that being logical. And I swear, I get these endorphins that it's like, yes, this is the right logic. Like that makes me happy when I'm logical. And so you're right. It is an emotional, like I'm getting these endorphins. I swear I must. And so, but then also living in a state of gratitude where I recognize, look, I'm feeling good because I did do logic. And I like to pause and like try and point that out, especially with my students, but to others where it's like, did you see you made this great decision? Don't you feel good? And to try and get others to recognize it. And again, I'm dealing with teenagers, so I know it's easier than a peer, but it's like, even with my peers, I'm like, oh my gosh, you did great. Look at what you did. And just that time to be grateful, to recognize. And then that teaches you, oh, I do like being logical. Oh, I do like feeling this way. How can I do more? And to train yourself so you're not feeling depressed, or this negative spiral, but get the spiral going up.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you could be in a situation as well what doesn't lend itself to logical thinking. That does require creativity or stretch of the imagination, or not having the evidence that you require to be logical. And if you are so wired to be logical, then you would be very uncomfortable in the other situation. And you might not understand, I guess, why am I feeling uneasy, because I don't have all of my logical evidence around me. I study with that at work. I'm a big fan of the old Myers-Briggs personality types, and people who are not project-based, same systems in, same systems out, people who are uber creative, don't care about the stepping stones to get to the end result. I find it very difficult to work with those people because that's not my type. But if they didn't exist in a team, we wouldn't get anywhere because I can't do those things myself. So that kind of understanding your own motivations, I find is really, really fascinating in all aspects of relationships.
Absolutely, Kelvin. And another thing too, that I think you brought up a good point, right? Is that, maybe emotions are really not that important in somebody's life, right? That person's life. But for other people, they're a big part of their lives. And you need to work with those people to reach a successful state, right? And more often than not, you're providing a product or a service to other human beings, and those human beings have feelings too, right? And so if you look at some of the most successful products and services out there, the creators understand the human element. If you look at Apple and the iPhone, one of the most successful products in the history of humankind, right, is driven by somebody who really could understand that human aesthetic and that feeling aspect of it, right? So I think we have to remember that we're doing things in service of other human beings, and humans are being driven by emotions, whether we like it or not. And so the more we can connect with this, and also, I say this as a man, I am a cisgendered man, but I also know, people who are transgendered, who have gone through this experience of understanding, like, what does it mean to be a man, and what does masculinity mean? And I think a lot of times in that process, we have to stop and think, like, what does it mean to be masculine? What does it mean to be a man? And we associate that with stoicism and being, not having that emotional connection, right? But there's a reason I'm wearing this shirt, is that I really believe that it takes strength and courage to be able to face one's emotions and to create space for other people to face those and process those emotions. And so I think that's a huge missing piece also for us as men when it comes to mental health, is that we're often told that we're not supposed to go in that direction and we're supposed to suppress it and hide it. And then that leads to, when you suppress, it can lead to anger and depression and violence, right? Suicide, bad things, right? So it's not just a matter of wellness, it's also a matter of life or death.
One of the most liberating things I found out about myself years ago was rejecting all of that toxic masculinity and allowing yourself to be seen as imperfect or vulnerable to colleagues, friends, family, actually has the exact opposite effect as you might think it would, or what you are told it would have. That being less than perfect actually makes people embrace you more, and you are more human to them. And I would like to say that to anyone who's listening: show your vulnerabilities and let people see them too.
Yeah, there's actually a thing as toxic vulnerability too, right? So that's the challenge. Is like, you know, I agree, absolutely, vulnerability is important, and there's also a fine line between being vulnerable and trauma dumping, and it's so hard. You know, how do you navigate that? But I would encourage people, don't let perfect be the enemy of good enough, right? You know, you can practice it, you can get feedback from people. Probably the best skill that you can develop for yourself is learning how to solicit feedback, because like, you're never getting anything perfect the first time out. In fact, you'll never get anything perfect, period, right? Perfection is a myth, right? You can ask the Borg, they try, but they never get there, right? But like, if you have this process down of being able to try things and being willing to fail and then get feedback from other people, and surround yourself with people who are willing to give you that feedback, then you're setting yourself up for success. So I think that's great, Kelvin, that you've learned that about yourself and you've put yourself out there and you've made yourself vulnerable. I've never seen you trauma dump, by the way. You've done a great job of showing vulnerability. I just always have to call that out, because I think sometimes people take that as a license to then just, you know, right. So anyway, so that's great call out.
Well, let's bring in Kristin and Blake. So, Blake, comments on Alex's transformational journey.
Listening to this, I started taking notes. It made me think about stuff that I wanted to say about what I do and how those dovetail, because there's a huge, you got to have a very strong mental game to commit to something like transforming your entire self physically. And that requires changing yourself mentally, because you've got to be equipped to do it. Just walking in saying, if I just pay money and something's going to happen, that's not how it works. You've got to be ready to commit and do the work. And oftentimes training sessions are as much a therapy session, because they will dump every one of their thoughts and feelings onto you. And sometimes you end up doing the same thing. It can be very reciprocal. And one of the things that I say, and you were talking about perfection, and one of the things that I learned in recovery, because I'm an alcoholic, I'm in recovery, I've been for years. But one of the things that I learned, and that I tell to all of my clients, is progress, not perfection. We want to advance. We want to progress. We will never be perfect. There's no such thing as perfection. It does not exist. It does not exist in nature. It does not exist anywhere. The only thing you can do is just do better. Listen, each time you come in, just do a little better. Be the best person you can be today.
Yeah.
And then as long as you do this today, then when tomorrow gets here, you do the same. You do tomorrow what you do tomorrow. Do not think about what's going to happen tomorrow. Do not think about the past. We're thinking about today. And we're going to do better today than we did yesterday. and we're just going to progress. And then if we hit a plateau, or if we hit a speed bump, then we come up with a workaround. We don't get discouraged, because discouragement will do that, or we don't build resentments because that, or we don't have massive expectations. When you walk into something with a massive expectation, an expectation is a premeditated resentment. You're going to, if you have an expectation, and expectations are pretty much unreasonable except for the person that's having them, because I set expectations for myself that are absurd, and most people set expectations for themselves that are absurd. They're unattainable. You've got to come up with a SMART goal, the SMART, sustainable, measurable, and then it ends with timely. But if you
attainable,
I just brain farted right
realistic, time.
Realistic. There we go. Realistic. That's the big one. That we find that realistic is one thing that tends to leave when we walk in the door, thinking that, oh, I'm gonna walk in here looking like this, and then I'm gonna walk out looking like what I saw on Instagram. I had a client the other day.
Oh no.
No, it was during the consultation. She pulls out her phone and she goes, "Can you do this to me?" And it was this lady who was just ripped and jacked, and she was in the gym. And I said, for one, no, there is nobody on the planet that's going to do that for you, because nobody did that for her.
That's genetic.
This is doctored.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah.
This is incredibly doctored. She's gone through I don't know how many Instagram filters to get that skin tone and to get all the little curves just right. With the lighting, she probably set up for 2 hours trying to get that picture. And there's probably 1,000 duds for that one picture. It's like there's realistically maybe one day, but the thing is, for one, I will be very, very honest with you, because if I'm not going to start our relationship off on a lie. I'm not going to say, oh yeah, we can have you like that, because I can't guarantee that. And one day maybe you can work towards that as a goal, but that is years down the road. And in 3 months, I'll be 46. And I can tell you right now, time is not my friend. It's not on my side. Trying to get to look like a 28-year-old when I'm going in the opposite direction age-wise.
Yeah.
You just got to realize that some things are not realistic. And I have to deal with that every day. But I do appreciate what you said. And I honestly, what's your background is in? Do you do like therapy sessions?
Yeah, no, that's a good question.
I have a couple of people who are actively looking for therapists. And what you were saying was just ringing so many bells with me. I was like, oh
yeah, I cannot provide therapy.
You would be perfect.
But I can provide coaching, and I can offer that for sure. I was going to say that what you said resonates, and I want to say, by the way, my background is actually in tech. I was a software engineer, but moved into to management and leadership, and I think that's where I learned a lot actually about psychology, is leading other people. But I want to say that what you said about is basically falling in love with the process, right? If you fall in love with the outcome, you're not going to get where you need to go. You need to fall in love with the process. And at the beginning of my journey, I was like 30 pounds skinnier in terms of muscle mass, maybe 20 pounds heavier in terms of body fat. And what I did is I went into the gym, and I discovered through weight training, it's a microcosm of life. It's this process of putting yourself into an uncomfortable position and pushing yourself further than you think you can go, getting feedback if you have a trainer. If you don't, you're getting feedback from the weights. They don't lie, whether you can go or not. And then taking that and then consistently showing up and iterating and slowly baby stepping your way towards your goals. And if you don't fall in love with the process, it's not fun, to be sweating and pushing weights and on the treadmill. If you don't fall in love with the process, you're just going to fall off the bandwagon. And so that's a big part of this success in both your world and in my world is to fall in love with that process and not be so, like you said, don't get so caught up in that outcome of like, I need to look like this Instagram. Be curious. if I fall in love with the process and I'm consistently applying it, where will I end up? What will I look like? I'm curious. Curiosity is your friend, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What about you, Kristin? Anything resonating from Alex's words of wisdom?
Almost too much resonated. I think for people, again, Alex, going back to your comment about neurodivergency, and I think it's so important to allow people to carry that in themselves and allow themselves to see that neurodivergency exists. It is very real. I know there's a lot of people going around right now saying it's just a reason for people to be lazy or whatever. It's a real thing. And I being neurodivergent myself, I struggle with it every day, but it can be both a blessing and a curse. So looking at, on the one hand, where yes, you have room to improve with your thinking patterns, but also looking at the skills and the natural abilities that way of thinking naturally gives you will help you a lot. You know, we're really good at working on the fly. We're good at engaging with people. You know, we're not really, it can really lead away from shyness depending on how you how it manifests in you. But I think I always find the irony of when you said mental health is the underlier to physical health. Holy cow, is it ever? And the irony of someone like I've lived with anxiety and depression for my whole life, is the best way to manage it is exercise. And we all know that. And we all get it. But if you ever find yourself in an anxiety-induced like paralysis, oh my gosh, when people are like, oh, just, you just need to go exercise. Oh, I never thought of it that way. Thanks so much for your thoughtful comment. It's not always that easy. And I think we also need to, as we improve on ourselves, realize that we need to see others on their journeys too and give them the same level of empathy, acceptance, and room to grow that we would want for ourselves. So, thinking to yourself, is this comment going to better the situation, or is it going to cause the person potentially some harm because we're not giving them space to explore their authentic self? So yeah, I really appreciated that comment. So it's very true, because if your motivation, your curiosity, all of that is not moving in its best way, and you're having a bad mental day, it can definitely affect your ability to pursue your physical health. So
I'm glad you brought that up, because that you just talked about a situation that is really hard for people to get out of. If I'm so anxious, I have so much anxiety that I can't exercise, but I need exercise to be less anxious, because we know that exercise can help with anxiety. Now I'm stuck in kind of like this cold start situation.
Yeah.
And the irony is that part of the reason we get stuck there is, like you said, people will say, well, just stop being anxious. Like, don't be anxious, just go work out. Right. Yeah. and then the person themselves is beating themselves up. They're saying, I need to stop being anxious. Why am I being anxious? Why am I an anxious person? I hate being an anxious person. Right. And so neither of these are working. Right. So what is likely going to work? I'm not going to say it's always going to work. Every situation is different, but there's a third option, which is to accept and embrace that situation and say, I am anxious and this is hard, and I may not be able to exercise right away, and that's okay. And I might have to face this anxiety, and I might be crippled by it for a little while. I might not be able to do much for a while, and that's okay. My body is telling me that I need to feel this. So let me feel it. Where is it coming from? Let me try to figure out what this anxiety is coming from, and let me address that. And then we'll get to the exercising, right? Yeah. And actually what I found is that when I do that, when I have a tough emotion like that and I face it, it's kind of like, when you shine the light on, you ever play a Luigi house and Nintendo, where you shine a light on the ghosts and they just disappear? It's kind of like that. Once you shine a light on the emotion and you face it, it's like a child. It wants attention, it wants love, and the light has to be a loving light. It can't be disgust. It can't be this, you shouldn't be anxious. It's got to be this, I love you, anxiety, because you're there. You're giving me signal. You're giving me information.
Yes.
Thank you for showing up for me, because if I didn't have anxiety, how would I know that something needs to be addressed?
Yeah.
Right. And then that's the first step.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Anxiety is an evolutionary tool that people had to give them signals from their environment that danger was near. The problem is a lot of us, we don't realize that our physical cells are not actually at danger. It is a misfiring of chemicals in our brains. And we just need to sometimes stop and do grounding exercises and realize that physically speaking, we are safe. We don't need to feel this way. And like you said, allow and just accept and love ourselves for how it is. But man, it's hard to do that in a society that puts should-isms all over us, right? My favorite saying is don't shit on yourself. And it's very true.
I love it.
Don't say, well, I should look like this. I should eat like this. I should be more active, et cetera, et cetera. Sometimes you just need to accept where you are. And as someone who's been on a complete transformation over the past 6 to 8 years of my entire life and everything, it's the shitting has really calmed down, and that was probably my biggest accomplishment. So, and also again, my little, because I love Reddit so much, if anyone wants to get a dose of reality, go to Instagram Reality. So Reddit, Instagram Reality, and it shows the before and afters of the doctoring of a lot of these popular photos. So they pull the filters off and show what this person actually looks like in real life without the lighting and the filters and the editing. And it does help to sort of bring some sanity back to the way that we are consuming media.
It's like a vampire when you open the curtains. Good Lord.
I do want to say that, there's a saying that comparison is the enemy of joy.
Yes.
I have I've heard a different version of this. It's actually it's not necessarily comparison, it's envy that is the end of joy. So comparison can be healthy, right? Right now, just I can compare my journey to yours, Kristin, and I can learn from you by comparing us, and I can learn from that comparison, and I can maybe find some aspirations there. But envy, if I start to envy those Instagram photos, then that's like you said, there's that I should look like that. But no, I want to love who I am, because the only way that I can become a better person is to first love who I am, because how would I even be motivated to become better if I don't love who I am today?
Yep, exactly.
Alex, I think that's a fabulous place to end. We could talk to you all day, and I'm so excited for your podcast starting, because I can already mentally see all of the topics that you're going to go through. There is so much to explore. So thank you so much for joining us today. Kristin, Blake, thank you for your comments. We'll see you guys a little later in the show. Thank you.
Yes, lots to look forward to. So be sure to check out his podcast, because we could just go on for hours. And so that's why he needs his own space.
Yeah. Let's take a little break, and then we're going to be back with Blake.
What shows are on BQN, you ask? Well, here's a rundown of some podcasts you might be interested in. All Good Things, a Star Trek Universe podcast covering all of Trek, hosted by Amy, Mark, Christos, Kelvin, and Kristin. Whether you've got Xbox or Nintendo, check out Bargain Bin Gamer, a YouTube show hosted by Davey, a self-proclaimed gamer who specializes in reviewing and showcasing affordable video games. 2 episodes enter the arena, 1 comes out victorious. Join hosts Joe and Kevin and a guest as they debate which should win the Batleth battle. Grab your popcorn as you listen to Cinema Z, a film discussion and review podcast showcasing films you probably missed but should definitely check out. Hosted by Mark and Matt. Don your apron for The Food Replicator, where Matthew eats and drinks his way through the Star Trek cocktail and 3 cookbooks. Beam Aboard Galaxy Class, a Star Trek Next Generation podcast covering all of TNG, hosted by Steven. In order to not repeat it, listen to History with the Szilagys, a snippet of historical events from around the world, hosted by Chrissy and Jason. For the newest Trek coverage, check out Infinite Diversity, hosted by Chrissy and Thad. Curl up with a good book and delve into Beta Canon with Peter, host of the online Trek Book Club on Twitter, and his new companion Trek Book Club podcast. Test your Trek knowledge with Treksperts Quiz, a Star Trek quiz show hosted and written by Davey. Whether you're a member of Starfleet Federation or Planetary Union, go check out Union Federation, covering current Star Trek and the Orville, which we all know is really a Trek show, hosted by Kyle, Kevin, Amy, and Haley. Head over to YouTube and watch the Viewscreen live on Sundays, your Trek-inspired talk show hosted by Kelvin and Amy, with Season 2 starting in September for a 10-week run. Spill the tea with Christos while he discusses current Trek news and events and explores the world of fandom via guest interviews, all with a LGBTQIA+ perspective on What's the Tea Bev. And for our Patreon members, we have the Hive Mind with monthly script readings, Let's Fly, a Discovery reaction show, It's Green, a cornucopia of topics, Amy's Math Moments, a quick look at math moments in Star Trek. We know you have a choice of podcasts to choose from, and we thank you for listening to BQN. Assimilate the audio. Wow. Today's been so good, and we've got one more guest.
We have. Just received such a cute text message from James, who sat downstairs watching the show. Sent me the picture of Sarek and Picard, where, you know, Picard takes all of Sarek's mental trauma so he can get through that all-important diplomatic final mission. That's just James's way of saying he's sending me strength because he can see I'm struggling. So thank you, James. Love. Okay, shall we bring on our final guest of today? Please welcome to the view screen Blake from Redshirt Survival Fitness. Blake, welcome to the view screen. Thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. We've heard a lot from you already in your comments to Kristin and to Alex as well. But in this kind of continual exploration of wellness that we wanted to cover today, we wanted to find a Star Trek fan who was a personal trainer into physical fitness. And you mentioned earlier about the Fit Federation hashtag that you launched during the pandemic. And that's indeed how I became aware of you on the social media, and I started following your accounts and your posts. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us a little bit about your Star Trek fandom and how fitness has become part of your life and your career.
Well, Star Trek has been a part of my life for my entire life. My first experience with Star Trek was when I was 5 years old. It was with a bootleg Betamax copy of The Wrath of Khan.
Wow.
And later that year, my parents took me to the movie theater to see The Search for Spock. And I have been hooked ever since. And it's gotten me through many, many, many things. It's like if anything was going wrong, I always knew that I had this to fall back on. I always knew I had Star Trek to fall back on because I could always relate to certain characters. And it's always been there. If there was nobody there, it was always there. And so that's usually how people would say. And I grew up very overweight. And so I had to, in order to socially integrate, I had to be the funny fat comic relief. That's the only way I could get into any groups, is to just be the innocuous funny guy, because I didn't have any physicality or anything like that. You know, in high school culture, that's how I did it, because I couldn't do the jock thing or anything like that. So I had to come in through, you know, Beta Club and tutoring people and being incredibly funny and witty. That's, you know, and that whole Gen X sarcasm wit thing. it's a defense mechanism as much as it is an offensive weapon. But shortly after I graduated from college, I was 245 pounds. You can do the math to convert it to kilos, and a 42-inch waist. That's pretty big for somebody who's 5'8", 5'9". If I stand up, if I stand up straight. And I decided that instead of a New Year's resolution, I would give myself a birthday present of completely changing my mindset and how I wanted to live the rest of my life.
Wow.
My birthday is January 6th. I know it used to be the greatest day in the world, but things change. And so I decided then and there, and that was 2002. So I was only 24, 23. And I decided I'd had enough that I wanted to lose weight. I wanted to change. And it took me a year, and I lost 95 pounds.
Wow. And
at the end, people would always ask, well, did you do it for your health? Is it because, your family has a history of diabetes and stroke and cancer? And I was like, no, I wanted to look good naked. It was horribly selfish motivation, but it worked. And so I really don't care about your motivations. As long as it gets you there. It's like, well, I want to do this. There are so many people, they get personal training because they want to fit into their wedding dress or this, that, and the other. It's like, you don't have to have a health reason to have motivation, and don't think that it's being selfish or, rude or something. Like, I just want to look good. I want to have a purely vain reason. It's like, well, your purely vain reason is going to get you healthy because you were not healthy. You might not have gotten diabetes yet, but you might be pre-diabetic and don't know it yet. But you wanting to look good for yourself or for your partner, I will never tell you that your motivations are wrong.
Yeah, I think that's tremendously honest, especially amongst gay men. A lot of friends of mine who are personal trainers will say people will come in and start quoting blood pressure and, diabetes. And actually 2 or 3 sessions in, as they get to know each other, they say, I just want to look hot in a club with my top off. So there's nothing wrong with that.
And the ones that are brutally honest like that in the consultations, like I mentioned earlier, they're the ones that I want to take on as my instead of me handing them to somebody who would be good. It's like when the first thing that come out of their mouth is, I want to look good naked. Like, well, you've come to the right spot because that was my motivation too. So I'm just going to take you as my client. But I did lose weight, and I'm very honest in my interviews with potential clients. I'm very discerning about who I take on as a client. And I will tell them immediately when because on my profile on our website for the gym, it's got a picture of me before and a picture of me currently. Mm-hmm. And they're like, well, how did you do it? I want to do what you did. And I was like, no, you don't, because I did not do it the right way, because I was very ignorant then. And I did it the wrong way. And I'm lucky I didn't get brain damage and lose my kidneys as a result of it, because I did it the incredibly wrong way. You're not supposed to lose 100 pounds in a year, not unless you are just morbidly obese and you've had lap band surgery or something. But now I've got an actual education in nutrition, in which I will tell them when we start training, is like, I would like to coach you in nutrition as well, because half the fight's going to be what you do outside of here, and that's going to be what you're eating. And I like food diaries. I'm a big fan of food diaries. I love the science behind personal training. There's so many sciences. I even was writing them all down. There's, of course, physics, there's chemistry, there's biology, physiology, and psychology. But the chemistry aspect always was fascinating to me, because nutrition is just chemistry. Mm-hmm. It's like you put in this chemical and you get this reaction. and it's to me that's fascinating, and that I can attribute that to a Star Trek upbringing. It's like I want to see beyond just it's not just something for meatheads. And jumping all over the place. I wish I had done it because it's funny because my formal education is in political science pre-law. So I an argument.
Brilliant.
Well,
I mean, that's
an absolutely useless degree. I actually turned it into something.
There are no useless degrees. How did you turn your personal fitness journey and success into a career? What made you want to then help others with fitness?
Yeah, and I have a follow-up question. So I myself have had a journey similar, and when I go to the gym, they've got stupid music and sports, and I mean, I like sports and all, but so I'm imagining your gym has Star Trek episodes on the TV.
Yes. BBC America plays Star Trek, and right next to it, we have 5 televisions in the main room, and the last 2 televisions are mine. I reserve them. The Sci-Fi Channel is on one, and BBC America is on the other.
Shut up! I love it.
And if anybody touches the TV, they will lose their membership. Abundantly clear. This section is reserved for nerds. It's like you do not touch it. But luckily, the owner of the gym, he's very much into things like that too. So I don't have anything to worry about. But going back to the gym, I will go back to how I got started. But one of the things is I was too scared to go into a gym because I feared judgment.
Yeah, so common.
And so I lost 95 pounds before I would even set foot in a gym because I was scared of what somebody was going to say. Or what they were going to do. Is like they would sit there and look at you like, "Why are you here? You
did that from like home workouts and things."
Yeah, eating and running.
Wow.
Which is why my left knee doesn't really work anymore. But marathoning is. There's a reason why the first person to run a marathon died at the end of it.
Wow.
I can't. My left knee, it was destroyed as a result of marathoning. But if it gets you there, it gets you there. So I just don't do a lot of it. I run once a year, and that's for the Peachtree Road Race on July 4th. And it's not really much of a run. But I make sure that as the general manager of the gym and the lead trainer at the gym, I do not want anybody to feel the way I did. When you walk into my gym, you're a person. You're here. You're a brave person. You're more brave than I ever was, because you're walking in here knowing that you want help or you want to make yourself better. And I did everything in the shadows for a year before I would even dare to darken the door of a gym. So anybody that has the courage to walk into a gym, know that they're the bravest person in the room. If somebody who is out of shape, overweight, walks into a gym for the first time, understand that they are an extremely brave individual. And it's they've swallowed more fear and pride than I've ever had in my entire life, because I couldn't do it. And so I really applaud people that are able to do that and willing to do that. And I will go out of my way to make sure that they feel very safe and very comfortable. I foster a bro environment in my gym.
Yeah, it's hard to just overcome that judgment, and you feel like all eyes are on you, and they're really not. You know, you're not that important.
They do not care about you.
Yeah, nobody it feels like it. I get it. You know,
they don't care about what you're doing.
Yeah. And with my trainer, and I tell him, and people are like, "You've had a trainer. This is going on 10 years now. Why? I'm sure you know all the yeah, I do, but I don't, go because he teaches me things. I go because of the accountability. So when you guys were talking about that, like, yeah, I pay him and I go twice a week. Thank you very much. I try and get there more often, as you said. But yeah, I pay to have that accountability. And for me, that has to work because I know as soon as I don't pay, I'm too quick to just give up. Oh, I should go to the gym. You know what? There's this great Star Trek show on. And then I never get to the gym. So by hiring a trainer, like that's what works for me. I'm not saying it works for everyone and I'm not saying everyone can afford it. I thankfully can. And my trainer has not raised the price up on me in 10 years. So I'm very, very lucky. But yeah, it's that accountability. And I think trainers are super important for that value.
Oh, yes. I've got a client, I've had her for a few years, and she's like, my body has changed. I do appreciate that. But she says, I come here for accountability. Mm-hmm. I come here to see you, because even though, no matter how bad of a day I'm having, if everything is going to hell and I just really hate the world, I do not want to do this, I don't want to leave the house, I make myself come and see you. And at the end of it, I feel immensely better. Yeah. It doesn't really matter how hard we worked during the session. Just me being here gives me the motivation to keep going for the rest of the day.
Yep.
And it's a lot like going to meetings in recovery. It's like, like, do I really need to do this? It's like, this is so stupid. And then once you leave, you're like, wow, they said exactly what I needed to hear.
Yeah.
It all works the same. It works very much the same way.
And Blake, is all of the work that you do, is it one-to-one training or group-based training in person, or have you made the switch over to online coaching as well? Because that works for people too.
I do it all. I'll do one-on-one online, but my main is one-on-one personal training. I do train a couple of couples, like husband and wife or husband and husband. Got 2 of those. And then I also do group fitness. I run the boot camp program at the gym.
Oh, nice.
And I make it available. It is not boot camp like you think. You're going to yell at me and you're going to break my arm. I'm going to do some really bad things. I make it to where anybody and everybody can do it. Every exercise is adjustable. And if you don't like the particular exercise, or if you don't think you can do it, do something different. I don't care. As long as you're moving, I really don't care. And that's the whole idea. It's like our oldest boot camper is 72 years old.
Wow. Good for them.
So the average age in the class is probably about 50.
Yeah. What advice would you give to people who maybe do have that little bit of intimidation about fitness or the gym, or, just making that first step, as we said? How would you kind of use what you've learned or your career to motivate someone to start their journey?
Your fear of judgment, of ridicule, is all in your head.
Brilliant.
Get out of your head. Get out of your head. And I'm guilty, because when he was talking about anxiety, I was like, oh yeah, if you had red, yellow, and green lights like a traffic signal, I'm at a constant yellow. And when I get to a red light, my red light is not a panic attack. I shut down. I shut down. And it looks like depression. So I thought I had depression for years. And my therapist said, no, your anxiety presents itself as you shut down. So it looks like depression. So I understand just the whole, they say fight or flight is fight, flight, or freeze.
Yes. Yeah,
I'm a freezer. I just lock up. And so I just get out of your head. Just walk through the door. And if you should know when you walk in, by the first person that you see, and if it's a good gym, they're going to have somebody there at that front door that is not going to look at you like, or anything like that. They are going to welcome you. And just be honest. It's just walking and say, hey, I looked at your gym online, and I would like to try it out. Is there a trial or something like that? And visit my gym, then I will let you work out for your first time for free. I'm not going to charge anything to give it a try.
Oh, wow.
I was like, because don't want to be snide, but like the concept of the lost leader. And the thing is, give something away to get something back. But I want somebody to be comfortable. I want to show you this. You're already family, so just you'll want to stick around. Just like, and the thing is, everybody here they're doing their own thing, and we walk through, we take a tour, I talk with them and everything, because I'm a firm believer in communication.
Yes.
Like I know everybody that comes in the door, and everybody knows me. It's just that it's about relationships. The whole thing is about relationships. There are some that I work with that do not understand the concept of relationships, and some people just see people as numbers, or they just don't see them at all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the thing is, people need to be seen. People want to be seen. And nobody likes to be talked to like they're stupid. And nobody likes to be talked to like they're a child. Or like, oh, well, look at you. You're in here. You look like that. It's like, why would you even start? How do you even get out of bed in the morning? It's like, that kind of mentality does not fly. I will not tolerate it. I don't. We don't have anybody. I would never employ anybody that would have that kind of an attitude. But it's about relationships. I have clients that I would be more than happy to spend time with outside of the gym in a social setting as I would in a work setting.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be that close to you, and I want you to be that close to me, because we're in this together.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like you have created this amazing environment where, you are aware that it's not just the physical, but, the mental and the emotional, the social dynamic of it all, that you're trying to address each of these to have a good working, effective environment for people to be better.
Yes. And
Love it.
And if I believe in somebody enough, I've gone out of my way. I've honestly, somebody lost their job, a client lost their job, and they were making such good progress, and we got to know each other really well. And so for a month, I personally paid for his personal training sessions.
Wow.
So I invest in you as much as you're investing in me. I think it is very much a two-way street. It's not just you give me. It's not a transactional relationship to me. It's like I spent too much of my life doing transactional relationships, and everything was quid pro quo, or something for something, or just outright trying to take from people because that's what addicts do. And so that I just refuse to go back, or I try to learn from mistakes and learn from the past, and if regardless, they'll land on their feet, and they'll stick around, and we'll be friends forever. Regardless of however long they stick around with me, we'll still be friends. Yeah. And so I just like having relationships with the people that are in my charge. I don't just walk in and say, okay, this is the spreadsheet. I want you to do this, this, and this. Go home. See you later.
You mentioned about relationships. One of the things I find about the gym is the relationship it gives me with myself. I've been going to the gym actually for 20 years now. No, it doesn't look it. But I find that setting healthy goals and healthy habits, I will put it in my work calendar that I am going to the gym to do pull day, to do push day, to do legs. And it's a meeting I have with myself. And people at work will say, oh my God, you go to the gym at lunch every day, thinking it's like so out there. It's like, no, it's just really important to me that that's a habit that I do every day. It's not I'm going to the gym. It's like you would go to the store to buy a sandwich. This is just how I spend that 1 hour in the afternoon. So setting healthy habits every day and making going to the gym just a normal part is the main relationship I have with myself about my fitness.
Nice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's bring in Alex and Kristin for any comments they may have. We've got a very healthy group on today. We've all been through fitness journeys on one way or another. So, Alex, I know you're a big gym bunny. What's all that resonated with you? How's it fit in with your own fitness journey?
I mean, like all of it did. Blake, thank you so much for the service you're providing to the community. I think it's amazing. I love your approach, your relationship first approach. When you had mentioned that people's motivations are important, and you had mentioned, looking good naked, as a gay man, that's where I started too. And it's interesting, like Amy had mentioned that, like, I always am connecting things down. I can't leave things at surface, and this is probably the neurodivergence. I can't leave things at the surface. So I had that thought of like, I want to look naked so that, why do I want to look good naked? So that I can be attractive to other people. Why do I want to be attractive to other people? So that I can connect with them, so I could build relationships and connections. Why do I want that? Because connections are important to me. They bring me value and fulfillment. I don't want to be alone. Why is that important? You keep digging down deeper and deeper. And the deeper you can get behind that motivation, the deeper you can get to the anchor, the stronger that motivation will become. Right? So for me, once I had uncovered that and I started going to the gym and I'm like struggling, I'm like, oh, I don't know if I can do this. It's like, yes, but remember, connection matters to you. And what I discovered along the way is like some of my strongest connections are with my trainers at the gym. I'm like you, Amy. I hire a personal trainer. We hire them, but they're our bosses, right? We hire them to be our bosses, right?
There's no talking back.
Exactly. That's my other comment, by the way, is that like, I to your point, Kelvin, like you going at lunchtime, people ask me, how do you just do this? I go 4 times a week. And I go at 11 a.m. like clockwork, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. People ask me, how do you do that? I'm like, well, how do you show up to your job every day?
Yeah,
exactly.
It's your job. And your boss, to your point, Kelvin, is actually yourself, right? And then it goes back to, you got to love yourself. If you don't love yourself, why would you work for yourself, right? So it's all connected. But, I think that's awesome what you're doing, Blake. And what was the name of your gym, by the way? Where is it located?
It's in Atlanta. It's called Village Fitness.
Awesome.
It's a neighborhood gym. It's just one facility. It's not a chain. It's not a big box. It's
boutique gym.
Like 8,000 square feet, under 2,000 members. It's
smaller is better, especially for building that community. I discovered, by the way, the reason I was asking, if people are over here on the West Coast, not in Atlanta, if they're in Atlanta, they should definitely go to your gym. On the West Coast, I heard about on the cruise, Todd Stashwick over here in Burbank, he goes to Hero's Journey, and it's a nerdy gym, and it's kind of focused on the sort of like a gamify training and fitness. And Todd's a huge, he's into D&D and all of that. So he was advocating for that. So to that point, if you're in Atlanta, or if you're in, go to Blake's gym. If you're in LA, maybe check out, the gym Todd goes to. But the point is like, find a gym that resonates with you, right? Find a gym that when you walk in the door, like you were saying, Blake, 1000%, you walk in the door, you don't feel that judgment. You feel that support. You feel like you belong. And if just any part of you, spidey sense goes off and says, this doesn't feel right, just walk back out, because you're setting yourself up for failure.
Brilliant. Kristin, what do you think?
I am such at a crux of not change, just like so I've been dealing with chronic nerve damage in my lower back since just after the cruise. So I have not been able to work out regularly for quite a few months now. I am having a procedure done next week that should remedy it. And I'm just sort of like lost as to how to get going again. So this is exactly the kind of thing that I needed personally today to know, like, how to get going. I need to find a gym where I feel comfortable. The one I was at before was not it. It was just infiltrated by 13-year-old boys.
Don't get me started.
No. Oh my gosh, I know. Like 8 of you don't need to stand around one machine for an hour.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Broccoli tops, pajama bottoms, and slides with socks.
I know.
Swear to God.
Why are people working out?
Pains of my existence.
Like,
Oh,
how are you working out in denim? You must be chafing like a mofo down there right now.
All of ours are in pajama bottoms, and they got slides with socks on.
Yeah.
It's
Why?
like a Boca Raton special. It's like, what is this? You look like an old.
All their socks now come up almost to their knees, like my grandpa's did back in the 80s. I'm like, this isn't.
Kristin, you've opened a box of worms now about gym etiquette.
Yes.
And I'm sure we could talk all day on gym.
Really, today was a really good even help for me, because mentally now I have to get over this block of where I haven't been working out for a substantial amount of time. I'm feeling it physically. The self-esteem has dropped a lot recently. So it's like, how do I, after next Wednesday, I'm so excited, how do I start my new journey again? So this was really, really helpful. So personally, this morning was just super refreshing for me. So thank you both.
Yeah. Brilliant. Blake, thank you so much for coming on, imparting your wisdom, motivating and inspiring us. And yeah, it's made me want to go back to the gym. I need to restart my week tomorrow, get my plan in place. Thank you all for joining us.
Yeah.
Another packed show, Amy.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Well, Kelvin, what's coming up for next week?
Wow. Well, next week, the British are coming. So next week, our guests are here in the UK. We have the fabulous Misty Chance, my local Manchester drag queen. I think it's the only Manchester drag queen who is not on this season's RuPaul's Drag Race UK, but she is the best. And we also have writer and yoga teacher, actually, Tim Leng, to talk about his involvement with the Star Trek Fact Files, which were a big weekly collection of Star Trek information a number of years ago that he was a writer and editor on. So can't wait for those to join us.
Yeah, that will be very interesting. My goodness. Well, we just want to thank our guests for coming on, Kristin, our usual, Blake and Alex. So, and a huge shout out to all of those watching live and participating in the chat. So Alex, where can people find you out there on the social webs?
Yes, I'm sorry, I had a camera failure, so I'm on a different camera now. Can you hear me okay?
Absolutely. Yeah, you look great.
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram, _Lex Rosa. And you can also find me on YouTube, which is my podcast is starting on YouTube and soon on the BQN as well. There'll be other touch points there too. But on YouTube right now, you can subscribe to Transformational Journeys, all one word, Transformational Journeys. And I hope to see you all there.
Yes.
Well, indeed. Lovely. Thank you for joining us, Alex. We'll see you soon. And Blake, what about you? Where can people find you online if they want to hear more?
If see Instagram, which I use mainly for and my Instagram is Red Shirt Survival on Instagram, all one word. And on Twitter, it's my name, Blake Ussery 007 is the handle. Because it's the old, I had that handle since 2014, way before I ever thought about doing it.
Are you also a James Bond fan by any chance?
Anything is, my brother set it up. So my brother assumes that I'm a James Bond fan, which I am, but.
That's cute.
Great. Well, thank you so much for joining us. It's been great to meet you. Thank you, Blake. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.
And Kristin, my love.
Okay, first, why was the drag queen scheduled for the day I'm away? Oh my gosh, I'm already having FOMO and it's not even here. Anyway, so I can be found, of course, on Instagram at kstrats, STRATZ. I am on Facebook under the BQN Collective and my name, and then I am also on Reddit at user Garrick's Fan Club.
Well, thank you very much. Enjoy your week off next week. Enjoy your corn gig. Come back the week after and tell us all about it.
Absolutely. It'll fit right in, I'm sure.
Enjoy. See you soon, love.
Thanks, love.
And Amy, remind everyone where they can find you.
Well, you can find me here on BQN. We are finishing up our two-parters, covering all the two-parters of Next Generation, and you can hear that on Union Federation. And I am loving our Discord conversation, so find us there. The link is in our show notes, and our Facebook group, the BQN Collective. So, Kelvin, where can people follow you?
You can also get me on the BQN Collective, or you can come and chat with me directly on the socials at Kelvin's Timeline. And until then, we would love to hear what you thought of today's show, and we hope that you will join our Facebook group, the BQN Collective, or the newly formed Discord group, as you just mentioned, Amy, and continue the discussion there. You can find the invite code in the show notes.
Yes, and a huge thank you to our Patreon members, the ongoing support. Thank you so much. If you'd like to help continue to support BQN, please go to patreon.com/BQN.
And if becoming a patron isn't your thing, then remember you can still support the show by sharing our posts, adding comments, joining us live, or just talking about the show to your friends on the social medias platforms.
Yes. And thank you again to our guests, our live audience. Thank you. We've loved interacting with you. And yeah, go ahead, catch us on the podcast.
Yeah, that's all for this week. For now, it's time to end transmission. Have a great day, everyone. See you next week.